who was anyone, went goo-goo gaga over the Ford Ranger Raptor when it first came out, which we would describe as having the physique of a bodybuilder, an aesthetic bodybuilder. Definitely strong enough to kick my ass. Unfortunately, even kittens can do that, but not nearly strong enough to take on Jack. That went straight to your head, didn't it? Strong is a word to describe pickup trucks, but ironically, the Raptor can't carry as much as these heavyweights that we're comparing here today, which are the 2021 Ford Ranger Wildtrak and the FX4 Max. Two everyday Fords for any and every task. We always like to poke fun at the little guy being me. This time I was able to avoid embarrassment because had I stood next to the Wildtrak, I would have looked like a gnome. Because that thing sits on 232 millimeters of ground clearance while the FX4 sits on 256 millimeters of ground clearance. Now, we've covered the Ranger before. Now these guys are just updated versions of their older brother. They're still as masculine as ever with buff fenders, muscly dimensions, and a rear that is simple yet effectively good looking. Key improvements for the Wildtrak include a new front grille similar to the FX4 we've reviewed in the past, updated mags that come in at 18 inches, and assisted tailgate, and a sports bar at the back. So while the Wildtrak got the FX4 treatment, the FX4 Max actually built on it. It's got a grille that looks like the Raptor, with the key difference being the Ranger logo is debossed on top. It's got way more ground clearance because, well, it actually has BF Goodrich tires, which, I've been told, cost about 15 grand a piece, which is a nice departure from the highway terrains on the Wildtrak, so you know that this is more purpose-built. These guys look so mean and trail-ready that I wonder if my wife will let me put this on our car. Honey, I have a great new way. It's a little bit on the expensive side to flood-proof the car.
Just cling wrap it.
What do you mean cling wrap? As in saran wrap? What the hell?
Yes.
But the real reason why it gets a leg up on the Wildtrak is because it's got 2-inch Fox shocks, which is only half an inch shorter in diameter than that of the Raptor. It's not exactly Raptor suspension, but still, it's Fox shocks. And then other people kinda say that it's like a baby Raptor or a Raptor Lite, which I see where you're going, but I kinda am inclined to disagree, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Oh, and another thing I need to mention, the FX4 gets halogens while the Wildtrak gets LEDs. And to be honest with you, yeah, we prefer LEDs. Overall, really, it's pick your poison. The exterior alone says that the Wildtrak is a more road-going pickup, and its more civilized design lends itself well to being an all-rounder of a pickup. Meanwhile, the FX4 is just, well, beefier, and it looks like it's ready to do very dirty things. Like roll around in the mud. Get your head out of the gutter, Jack! Now, as for the beds, both feature the same capabilities, well, because they're actually the same truck, and both of them do have leaf springs, and they can easily carry over 1,000 kilograms of weight, which unfortunately can't be said of the coil springs of the Raptor. And speaking of coil springs, here's a small comparison for you. Check this out. The Raptor can only carry about 680 kilograms of payload. Again, coil springs, and again, bodybuilder that can still kick my ass, unfortunately. But the standard Rangers can carry 1,121 kilograms, nearly double the amount that the Raptor can haul. So, is the FX4 Max a Ranger Raptor Lite? Yeah, it's a heavyweight in its own right, a power lifter. Beat your ass and throw you out of the ring kind of power lifter. The civil and the wild side of both these Rangers are on full display in the interior. Leather dash, leather seats with orange stitching, and Wildtrak branding too. Then you've got the gauge cluster, which is nicely laid out with 2 digital screens. You still have Ford's 8-inch infotainment screen with Ford's Sync 3 that has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The display also doubles as your reverse camera, yep, and you get parking sensors in the front and the rear for added peace of mind. And with the new pickup trucks out there that are available in the market, we are definitely looking forward to the next pickup truck Comparo. Moving on over to the FX4 Max, you basically get the same, but not the same. You get me? Okay, look, it's just not as maarte as the Wildtrak. Mainly because, well, for starters, you don't get as many scratch magnet plastics on the dashboard. That's one. We feel that the Ford really stuck to their guns in making a pickup truck that was focused more on off-roading than being a slick yet capable machine. See, in the Wildtrak, it's as if you don't want to muddy the dash or the seats because you might stain something or ruin it with your dirty hand. Whereas in the Max, again, it's not that maarte. You won't be afraid to touch it or get it soiled because the interior is made out of super durable materials. Meaning that if you do decide to go trading with this guy, getting your filthy hands all over the FX4 Max won't really be a problem, not at all. In fact, it might even actually enjoy it. You dirty girl. Did I say that out loud?
You.
Sorry. You do get the same 8-inch touchscreen infotainment screen as found in the Wildtrak, and you also get leather seats which are both manually adjustable. You've also got buttons found on your steering wheel for your cruise control. However, you don't get a backup camera with this guy, unlike in the Wildtrak. However, the one thing that the FX4 gets that the Wildtrak does not, and it blows it out of the water, are switches. Show 'em, Snoop.
Oh, nigga got switches in this mother.
Essentially, these auxiliary switches will allow you to add even more stuff to your car, like big-ass Batman lights, or a winch that's powerful enough to pull Harry and Meghan out of the spotlight. God save the Queen! What the hell is this guy? The Wildtrak we picked up is the 4x2, not the 4x4 for this particular Comparo, with good reason. Don't get upset, we have an explanation. See, the 4x2 Wildtrak is actually the closest that you can get in price to the FX4 without actually going over. You get anything more than that, like the 4x4 Wildtrak, and you're talking in the category of the Raptor already, which is a bit on the expensive side when you're talking about the 4x2 Wildtrak and the FX4 Max. So this is why we picked these two particular cars for a comparison. That being said, the engines also differ between these two pickup trucks. One has a biturbo, one is a single turbo. The engine in the Raptor is the same as the engine in the FX4 Max, which is a 2-liter biturbo diesel engine that produces 210 horses and 500 Nm of torque mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. The Wildtrak, on the other hand, is a 2-liter single turbo diesel engine that produces 178 horses and 420 Nm of torque mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel efficiency was where it kind of threw us off because we did expect more. See, in the Wildtrak, we were able to get 8.8 kilometers per liter, and in the biturbo of the FX4 Max, we were able to get 9 kilometers per liter. We did expect more, especially since there is a 10-speed automatic transmission that you can actually stretch its legs with. Now, these are city figures, so maybe on the highway a bit better. It's just that, well, like I said, inside the city, we kind of did expect a little bit more. Now, when you're driving the Wildtrak, frankly, it's not that different or not different at all from the previous version. You still get a boatload amount of torque, a little bit late when you step on the accelerator compared to other pickup trucks, but it is still definitely a fun car to drive. The steering is still light, and we're happy with how Ford was able to make this rig handle well in tighter situations. You won't have to muscle it so much in order to point yourself in the right direction. Now, for a pickup, the Ranger actually takes corners pretty nicely. I don't feel as if it's fighting me or the weight is getting too much in the way, but you can feel it though. Though the body roll in the Wildtrak is noticeable, wind noise and engine noise isn't too much of a problem, however, but the thing is, the diesel motor does get a little loud since the 2-liter displacement is a little small and it does only have one turbo. So it does mean you gotta ring it out a little bit. However, I will admit that the comfort inside a Wildtrak is actually still pretty darn good. And even at speed, it's actually pretty quiet for a pickup truck. Yes, if it's your first ride inside a pickup truck, you will notice that it is bouncy as heck. But even this guy absorbs bumps pretty well. Now, moving on over to the FX4 Max, I expected a bit more roughness in its drive, but to be honest with you, that's not the case. The Fox shocks in this guy are tuned actually quite well given the ride height that it has. It just has a slightly heavier steering than the Wildtrak because of the thicker tires, but it's definitely manageable. Cornering in this thing, well, it's not going to be better than the Wildtrak because it is taller and body roll is more apparent, yes, but you never feel super out of control or teetered over to one side too much given reasonable speeds. I guess the only gripe that we'd have is the road noise. See, these are on all-terrain tires as well. It's not that quiet on the highway, but everything else very refined and really similar to the Wildtrak. But compared to other off-road vehicles out there that you see with like really gnarly tires, and you can even hear them from your own car when they pass you, it's that noise that it makes. And inside the car, it's gotta be even worse. This guy is nowhere near that. Now, we see these two pickup trucks as more of a flex on Ford's part, really. See, the Ranger is such a good platform, and it just goes to show that Ford really knows what they're doing when it comes to speccing out their vehicles. Now, these two Rangers can do a lot of things. They've got the practicality and specs to back it up. The Wildtrak is a more road-going pickup for your average working man with a lot of stuff to haul, maybe a bit of off-roading, and an appreciation for tech and safety in his car. Whereas the FX4 Max is for a more rugged type of person who wants something that is ready to take on the trail and go off-road straight from the showroom floor. Now, we're pretty impressed with the kit provided, the Fox shocks especially, because, well, the additions here make up for the lack of features. Not to step on Ford's toes or anything, but this thing should actually have a backup camera. In fact, it boggles us why it doesn't. Said and done, the FX4 Max comes in at 1,698,000 Philippine pesos, while the Wildtrak 4x2 comes in at 1,540,000 Philippine pesos. Now, at the end of the day, the only thing that you really have to consider is which particular one you actually want to take home. Do you want something that can get down and dirty but makes for a great daily driver even inside the city? Or do you want something that actually wants to get down and dirty? With switches, mind you. Pick your poison.